Our sheet here talks about on the diagram side that has human person, body, and soul. Okay? You have to understand, in order to understand our social nature as human beings, which we're going to be dealing with here in this class on the church's social doctrine, we have to understand ourselves first. What is man? And just to review, once again, okay, the human person, we're a composite of body and soul. Not one or the other, but both. We are not like the angels that are pure spirits. We have intelligence and free will. We have a body and a soul. So that makes us halfway between the purely material world and the totally spiritual world. We share materiality with other creatures, the brute animals, okay, who have not what we have. And what is it that we have? Patrick, what is it that we have that the animals don't have?
Intellect and free will.
Intellect and free will, okay? We don't have those, okay? So, they don't have those, we have those. Intellect to think, to know the truth. Okay? Our intellect is made to know the truth. Ultimately, to see God, who is the truth. Our minds are made for God. Why did God make us? Why did God make us? To know Him, to love Him, to serve Him in this life, in order to be happy with Him forever in heaven. That is why God made us. That is why we exist. Okay? We must keep that in mind. If we keep our end in mind, then we will come to know ourselves as persons, and we will act rightly, hopefully, to get to the place where we're destined to be by God's plan. So, our body has senses. The outward senses are 5. Sight, touch, taste, sound, and touch. Okay? Those are directed toward pleasure. And food, sex, beauty, these are pleasures that God made us to enjoy through our bodily senses. And that's the bodily part of us. The spiritual part of us, the soul, that's where our intellect and free will come in. And intellect drawn to truth, free will is drawn to, free will is drawn to what? What is our will drawn to? The truth. Well, that's the intellect, truth. The free will is drawn to the good. The good. Okay? We love what is good. We love what is good, and we choose what is good. And these are the things that separate us from the lower animals, because the lower animals do not have an intellect to reason with and free will to love with. Animals act by instinct. So if you love a dog, you treat a dog well, the dog will love you back. The dog will not be mean to you if you treat it well. That's their instinct. If we love someone, they can still be mean to us. That's our free will. Like the lower animals, we have a memory to store things. Okay? We have an imagination to image things. That's part of our creativity, right? In our imagination, a great composer putting together a work, he imagines what the symphony will sound like, or a beautiful painting will be like. And we have emotions. And our emotions are linked to, are not purely spiritual. We know that. Because when we get emotional, it affects our bodies. Our bodies react to things that go on around us. If we are happy, our bodies will act one way. If we're sad, someone can get depressed. It can be a physical condition for them. And in fact, that's one of the things that sin does to us. I can't relate people's sins. Why is that? And we know why I can't tell people sins that I hear as a priest. Why can't, okay, if Evan, if you confess your sins to me, okay, why can't I tell everyone to confess, hey, guess what Evan did? Why can't I do that? Why?
You took a thingy where it says...
So please raise your hand, I will call on you. Yes, Emma, why?
Like a oath thingy that says...
Oath thingy? Yeah, well, you're on the right track. It is, I am bound, okay, by the law of the church for the seal of confession, it's called. Seal your lips. I'm bound by the seal of confession. Every priest knows this. If a priest reveals someone's sins, he is automatically excommunicated from the church. He has to go see the Pope has to give him back his priestly faculties. The priest can never reveal anyone's sins. And sins can often weigh on us because you've ever heard of a psychosomatic illness? Ever heard that term? Psychosomatic. People get ill because of some mental problem weighing on them. I have a cousin who, unfortunately, he left his wife, and his children and problems. He had a bunch of kids, and it affected him in a physical way. So he even went to doctors. The doctors couldn't find anything wrong with him. He said, is there something going on in your life that is causing you stress? And he admitted, yes, this is the problem. This is what we want. Sin can do that to us. I can't relate anyone's sins, but I can say this. This morning, a fellow walked into my doorway, and I heard a confession. He had been away from the church for decades. I hear people's confessions. Sometimes they're away for, I think the longest was 60-some years. Someone had been away from the church and been away from confession. So, anyway, our emotional life can affect our physical well-being. And sin can weigh on us. If someone is sinning, at least at the beginning of sin, if someone gets hardened in sin, then their conscience becomes deadened. I've heard former abortionists, doctors who perform abortions, say that the first abortion they performed, they couldn't sleep all the night beforehand, and afterwards they threw up, okay, because you're tearing apart a baby, you see this. But by the time they did their 5,000 or 10,000th abortion, it's nothing. It's just part of their life. Like the Nazi doctors, the first people that they put in those gas chambers, I'd imagine they felt pangs of conscience. That's normal. After they did it for 100 times or 1,000 times, then the conscience becomes dead. But we should have a reaction to sin. It should weigh on us, our conscience. That's the beautiful thing of confession. I told the fellow this morning, I said, your sins are forgiven. Everything you've done, it's all wiped away. It's clean slate. Yeah. Beautiful. The angels in heaven are rejoicing now more over you than over 100 righteous, because the lost sheep has come back. You're in the fold, you're back in the state of grace. Okay? That doesn't finish it, of course, because sin is like a nail that goes into wood. You take out the nail, what's left in the wood? A hole. You have to fill up the holes. That's what penance is. That's why priest gives penance. If you don't make up for all the bad things we did in this life, assuming we die in the state of grace, that's what purgatory is for. We've got to be purged of those effects of sin that we haven't purged in this life. We should strive to be saints to go straight to heaven. Anyway, okay, so we are body, soul, composites. That's how God made us. God made us to know Him, love Him, serve Him in this life, to be happy with Him forever and ever. Fellas, I think that's all the time you'll have for those quizzes, okay? Are you finished with them? Okay. I'll give you 2 more minutes, okay? 2 more minutes. Now turn to the back here of our sheets, okay? Because we talked about the angels, okay? Yeah, the angels weren't in heaven. They were given a test of obedience. Some of them failed. And because the angels have intellects, angels don't reason. Angels see immediately something, the truth of something. Their intellect is much more heightened than ours. And the angels saw so clearly that if they rebelled against God, this was a final rebellion, and yet some did. That's the devil and the other fallen angels. Okay? The good angels are actually what we call angels. The bad angels we call demons. And they are separated from God eternally. Now, we know Satan tempted Eve, who then cooperated in Adam's sin. And I'm going to read from the Bible here, the book of Genesis. God created us in His image, in the divine image He created him. Okay? And the Bible tells us that after God created Adam, God brought all the animals before Adam to let Adam name the animals. Does anyone know the significance of that? The Bible tells us that Adam gave names to all the animals, all the birds, all the beasts. They were brought before Him. He named them. To name something means you have authority over it. So He gave names to all the animals, showing that the animals were meant to serve us. That's what the animals are there for, to serve us. I haven't figured out what mosquitoes and gnats and black flies are for, just to aggravate us. God must have a plan for them. I don't know, but anyway, before the fall, these weren't bothering us, okay, because Adam and Eve were in paradise. But after Adam named all the animals, he still felt solitude, because can you communicate in a human way with animals? Can you? Can you communicate in a human way with animals? No. I used to talk to my dog Max, but he couldn't talk back to me. So to have a real intimate relationship with someone, a relationship where you are speaking, animals can't speak. Well, to have a relationship with someone, you need another person. So what did God do with Adam? The Bible tells us. What did God do? Because I'll just read what the scripture says. This is chapter 2 of the book of Genesis. It said, the man gave names to all the cattle, the birds of the air, the wild animals, but none proved to be a suitable partner for the man. None of them. So what did God do to Adam? He did something to him. Chris, what did he cast him asleep. And what did he do once he was asleep? He did something to him. What did he do? Ribs, and raised up a woman that's Eve. I was curious. I asked my friend who's a doctor, I said, do men have one less rib than women? No. So this is metaphorical language, okay? What's this meant to show? That Eve is of the same nature as Adam. And so when Adam sees Eve, okay, he says, it's love at first sight. Okay? This one at last is bone of my bones, flesh of my flesh. This one shall be called woman, for out of her man this one has been taken. That is why a man leaves his father and mother and clings to his wife, and the two become one body or one flesh. And the man and the wife, his wife, were both naked and yet felt no shame. And they felt no shame because, okay, take out that sheet again. They felt no shame because the body and the soul were working together, and the will and the emotions and the pleasures were drawn to were under the control of reason. So Adam and Eve could look at each other in their nakedness and appreciate the beauty of that other person's body, and not feel and not desire that other person's body to use in a selfish way to please themselves. That's what we call the original innocence of Adam and Eve. but that original innocence would soon be gone, because if we keep on reading, that's the end of chapter 2 of Genesis I just read. Okay? Chapter 3 is titled The Fall of Man, and the serpent comes to the woman and says, he asks her to eat from one of the trees, and the woman says, we may eat of any of the trees in the garden, it's only the fruit of the tree in the middle of the garden. God said, you shall not eat it or even touch it, lest you die. And she's exaggerating here. God can say don't even touch it, but she's exaggerating. What does the serpent say? Oh, God knows you will certainly not die. He knows that the moment you eat of it, your eyes will be opened, and you will be like gods, who will know what is good and what is bad. So were Adam and Eve walking around with their eyes closed up until this time? No. What's he talking about? Your eyes will be open. Well, what do you think?
You're going to realize what you didn't realize before.
You're going to know what sin is. You didn't know what sin was before. And you will be like gods. What do you think that means? You will be like gods. That was the temptation. You will be like gods if you disobey God and eat the fruit of this forbidden tree. You will be like gods. What does that mean? What was the temptation that Eve was experiencing when the serpent, the devil, says, if you eat it, you will be like gods? Why was that a temptation for you? Why do you think, Mr. Miller?
You do whatever you want.
That's it. If you're God, you can make up your own rules to live by. 10 Commandments, I don't need those. I've got my own rules to live by. I'll do my own thing. Whatever I want to do, I'll do. I'm the arbiter of right and wrong. I decide for myself what's good for me, so don't tell me what to do. This was the temptation. And as the Bible tells us, the woman saw the tree was good for food, pleasing to the eyes, desirable for gaining wisdom, false wisdom, not true wisdom. So she took some of it, ate it. She gave it to her husband. He ate it. Then the eyes of both of them were opened, and they realized they were naked. And so they sewed fig leaves together and made loincloths for themselves. So, what are they experiencing here? Why do they have to make loincloths and cover themselves in their nakedness? Where before the sin, they could look at each other, they're fine. Now, what do you think is happening? What's happening? Roman, tell me what's happening. Yes. I said, this isn't sleepy time, okay? Keep awake. I want your eye contact, okay? So, I'll ask the question again. Okay? When Adam and Eve have to make loincloths for themselves, what are they experiencing? When they can't look at each other in their nakedness, in a pure way, what are they experiencing?
Sanctifying grace.
Well, they're not experiencing sanctifying grace. They're out of sanctifying grace. That's part of the problem, okay? They were created in sanctifying grace for the share of God's life. Remember, our sheet says, okay, they were created in a state of sanctifying grace. That's to share in God's life in their souls. Made them friends with God. Okay? Gave them the right to heaven. They also had a heightened intellect, sharper intellect than us. They had a stronger free will. They had control over their emotions. Okay? Everything was working together in harmony between body and soul, like the sheet says. Everything's working together before that original sin. Okay? They're able to look at each other in their nakedness and experience no shame. But now they're experiencing shame. Why? What is shame? What is that? When we experience shame. What is that?
Guilt.
What?
Guilt.
A little bit. It's like it's related to guilt. It's related to modesty. If someone is immodest, they're ashamed of themselves. if you walked out in the hallway in school, okay, out of the shower and forgot to put your clothes on, everyone says, "Ooh, ha, ha, look at," well, you'd be ashamed. You'd be, "Oh my gosh, I forgot to put my clothes on." You know? So, Adam and Eve are experiencing shame, but it's shame due to a particular sin. Anyone know what sin is? To look at someone in an unclean, unpure manner is what? Lust. Yeah, you're experiencing lust. I want to use your body for me to give me pleasure. And so they have to have loincloths sewed and cover themselves in their nakedness. This is telling us the truth about human nature. And those sheets, back of those sheets, they have the diagram, okay? Just to go over it again, Adam and Eve, created in a state of sanctifying grace. They were friends with God, gave them the right to heaven. What is sanctifying grace? Our share in God's own divine life. Okay? They had great knowledge, heightened intellect, a will governed by their reason, happiness in paradise, freedom from no pain, no suffering, no death, and no concupiscence. Concupiscence is the inclination to sin. It's a rebelliousness in us. I mentioned the other day, what's the first thing a 2-year-old learns to say? No. Why are they saying no? Why aren't they saying yes and obeying their parents all the time? It's because of our fallen nature. And as we grow up, our no's get more serious. So, they were free from all that. But after that original sin takes place, they disobeyed God. Now, they lost God's friendship and the right to heaven because they lost sanctifying grace. Okay? And there's a break between God and man. Because of the break between God and man, there's a break between human relationships with each other. And we keep on reading in chapter 4 of Genesis. What happens? Cain kills Abel, brother killing brother. That's what happens. We see this right away, the effects of original sin. They lost much of their knowledge. That's true with us. Okay? The control of their will by reason. Do we always do what we should do? No. Sometimes we do what we know we shouldn't do. We don't have full control over ourselves. Okay? We're weak, in other words. Okay? We have a weakened will as a result of original sin. We lost happiness in paradise, and we lost freedom from pain, suffering, the inclination to sin, concupiscence, and death. We will all die. We are all dying. All of us are dying. Some will die sooner than others, but we are all dying. Day by day, we're moving closer to the end. We don't know when that day will be. What does Jesus tell us in regard to that truth? If we're all going to face death someday and judgment, the moment we die, we're judged. Okay? So what does Jesus say about knowing that we could die anytime? I could walk out and get struck by lightning. Okay? So what advice does Jesus give us in regard to this truth that we're going to die one day? Does he tell us anything? In the Gospels, maybe? Does he say anything to us? Anything? Jet, can you admit? Jesus says, well, be prepared, okay? Be ready. You know not the day nor the hour when the Son of Man will come, or when we're going to die. Either way, okay? If we're alive when Jesus comes at the end of the world, we have to be prepared for that. But the end of the world is going to come for each of us. The moment we die, we have to be ready to give an accounting of our lives. Okay? We want to die in a state of grace to get to heaven. If we die in a state of grace, we get to heaven. We may have to get cleaned up in purgatory first. That's likely. I include myself there. I plan on going to purgatory. I know I'm not a saint. So I'm going to have plenty of masses said for me, so the masses are applied for my soul. Ask people to pray for me. So you have to be prepared. Now, Adam and Eve bequeathed to us what? That's at the bottom of the sheet here. They bequeathed original sin We're all conceived and born with original sin. There's only one person besides Jesus, because he was God, one person who wasn't conceived with original sin. And who was that? Who was that? It's a woman. Who is it? The Blessed Virgin Mary. Wasn't she was preserved from original sin. Filled with grace. Why? Why did God preserve her? Why wasn't she conceived with original sin and born with original sin? Because she was going to be the mother of whom, Nevin? Jesus, the mother of God. So God wanted someone all pure, all spotless. All the rest of us were conceived and born with original sin. Okay. And we have ignorance. We don't know all the things that Adam and Eve had. We don't have an intellect as sharp. They bequeath to us pain and suffering. Well, suffering is linked with sin. If there had been no sin, there'd be no suffering. It'd be great. So suffering and death came about because of sin. These are the effects of sin. You see this, in people's lives. Because of sin, people suffer, right? People do bad things to other people, and it causes them suffering. That's moral suffering. That's or moral evil. Anyway, Jesus Christ, by the way, on the cross, he used the punishments for original sin to redeem us. Suffering and death. To bring us back into life. He won for us the life of God, the share in God's life, lost by Adam and Eve. But we're not born into it. When do we receive it? When do we get it? When do we get it? Baby, when do we get it? At baptism. That's it. We're born again of water and the Spirit. Okay? I baptize you in the name of the Father, Son, and Holy Spirit. That child is now a child of God. The life of God is within that child. The Holy Spirit dwells in that child, that person. It else can be baptized too. Yeah. So, anyway, we all suffer. We all are going to die. And what I'm going to concentrate on today, the inclination to sin, it's called concupiscence. We're inclined to sin in 7 ways especially. And these are called the 7 deadly sins, or capital sins. Why do I use the term capital? What is anyone? Can anyone figure out why I say they're known as the 7 capital sins as well as the 7 deadly sins? Well, there's a certain type of punishment. Like what? Capital punishment. What is capital punishment? Put to death. Okay? You're putting someone to death. That's capital punishment. So the 7 deadly sins, or the 7 capital sins, they lead to spiritual death. They're the doorways to all the other sins. And I put an acronym down here at the bottom of the page, places -G. See that? Okay. That's how you can remember when you're tested on this, okay, what the 7 deadly sins are. Places G: pride, lust, anger, covetousness, envy, sloth, and gluttony. Okay. Places G. What is pride? When you say pride, pride is the first and the primary of the deadly sins. It's the root of all sins. What is pride? I'm not talking about being proud of a work that we do. You do a good job, you're proud of it. This is sinful pride. All the deadly sins, they go against reason. So what do you think sinful pride is? What?
I was going to say selfish, but I don't think that's...
Selfish?
Yeah.
Well, in a way, but it's more devious than that. Okay. Arrogance is that's close to it. Okay. Sinful pride is an unreasonable exaltation of oneself. Exalting oneself. Pride is the root of all sin, because what are we doing when we sin? We're exalting ourselves over God. I'll do it my way, God, rather than your way. So pride is really the root of all sin, whether we think about it or not. That's pride. Lust is the pursuit of sexual pleasure in an unreasonable way. Is it reasonable to sit in front of a video screen all day watching pornographic movies and fantasizing about having sexual relations with someone? No. Is there an order for how we're supposed to use our document sexuality? Yes, there's an order to this. That we can figure out using our reason and that God has revealed to us. Okay? So to misuse it. Anyway, I'm going to go back to pride and give the counter, and you can write this on your sheets, okay? Or in your notes, okay? Pride is the first of these things. Okay? And the opposing virtue, this is the vice, you say, the vice. And the virtue, what is the virtue that counteracts pride? If you're proud, you're exalting yourself over others unreasonably, even over God, having this blown up image of yourself. Okay? So there's a virtue that counteracts pride. Anyone? Can you guess what it is? Okay. The proud person has to practice what, Anna? What? What? Humility. Okay. Humbleness, yes. Okay. Humility. Okay. Okay. Humility is the recognition that everything we are, all we have is from God. Okay? It's a gift from God. The humble person acknowledges, God is greater than I, and is willing to acknowledge other people, more intelligent, more kind, more loving. Okay, if you're humble. There's no country in Western song making fun of the idea of humility. It's oh God, it's hard to be humble when you're perfect in every way. Have you heard that song? No? Have you heard that song? You should go to it. Oh Lord, it's hard to be humble. You're perfect in every way. I can't wait to look in the mirror. As I get better looking each day, to know me is to love me. I must be a heck of a man. Oh Lord, it's hard to be humble, but I'm doing the best that I can. It's making fun of this idea. This person's really proud, but saying he's humble. Okay? So humility is really recognizing that everything we are is a gift from God. Blessed Virgin Mary was humble. Jesus said, "Learn from me, I am meek and humble of heart." Okay? So, lust, second deadly sin. Okay. Lust, the unreasonable pursuit of sexual pleasure. And what's the opposing virtue? To counteract lust, we must practice what? Okay. Chastity, okay. Or you can say purity too. Okay. Purity. And I'll throw one else in there. Modesty. Modesty. We don't dress or act in a way to show off ourselves, especially in matters of sexuality. So, lust, the unreasonable pursuit of sexual pleasure. We're not pursuing it in a reasonable way. Pride, lust. The third deadly sin is anger. Okay? And this is sinful anger. Not all anger is a sin. Okay? Jesus became angry at the money changers in the temple. He threw them over. He didn't sin. Anger is the response, the correct response to an injustice. If we see an injustice, we should get angry. However, sinful anger is unreasonable anger. Okay? Unreasonable. It's losing control. Uncontrolled anger is what the vice, one of the deadly sins is, anger. We want to control our anger. If we see an injustice, we should get angry. If you walk outside and I see some young thug go up to an elderly lady who's walking through the street and punch her in the face and run off with her purse. What should I be? What should I do? I should get angry. And try to chase them and tackle them and hold them until the police come. Okay? Pardon me? Oh, go ahead. So anger. So to counter anger, unreasonable anger, when someone blows their top over little things, and there's a virtue that counteracts this. And what do you think it is? Patience helps, okay. Actually, it's meekness, okay. Gentleness, okay. Gentleness, okay. Well, kindness, yeah, and patience is a good thing to me. Patience to bear with the things that aggravate us. Okay? Oftentimes we get angry because we're suffering something. Whether it's waiting in line for something, or a driver cuts us off, or someone does something bad to us. Okay, so we must respond with meekness and gentleness. When Jesus says, when someone strikes you on the face in one cheek, what does he say? Belt them back? No, turn the other cheek. Okay? Someone takes your coat from you, give them your cloak as well. So that gentleness and meekness, Jesus says, learn from me, I am meek and humble of heart. So we need meekness. Meekness does not mean weakness. It's strength. You have to be a strong person to be meek, to be gentle in the face of opposition, in the face of people treating you badly. They were spitting at Jesus, slapping him in the face, plucking his beard, crowning him with thorns. Jesus was meek and gentle in response to it, praying for his persecutors. What did he say on the cross? Father, forgive them, for they know not what they do. That's practicing meekness, gentleness, and being patient with things that happen to us that are maybe unfair, we think, or that cause us suffering. Actually, patience comes from a Latin word, P-A-T-I. Pati is the Latin word for to suffer. To suffer. You have to suffer. All kinds of things. Who causes us the most suffering? Who or what causes us the most suffering? Who? Ourselves, well, in a way, but I'm talking about outside of ourselves. Who causes us the most suffering, do you think? Who? Not necessarily the devil. Who aggravates us the most? Who gets on our nerves the most? Isn't it people with whom we live? Yes. Okay. People with whom we live, whom we work with. Okay. You've got to get along with people. Husbands and wives, parents and children, brothers and sisters. Kids come to me and say, I beat up my brother all the time. I'm mean to them. Brothers and sisters get on your nerves, right? Yes. You have to be patient. Be patient with them. Pray for them. Okay? Yeah. So that instead of getting angry and smacking your brother or sister when they do something to aggravate you, try to be kind. Try to be patient with them. Okay. So pride, lust, anger, covetousness. Okay. Covetousness. Okay. It's also you say greed. Okay. Greed. If you're coveting, you want more and more of things. Okay? This is bad. Jesus says you can't love God and money. People, you ever notice people who have money always seem to want more money? They're never satisfied. It's insatiable. Greed. I want more. I want more. I want more. Well, so what is the virtue that counters greed, wanting more and more things, okay? More and more material things, more and more money? What is it?
Charity.
Covetousness. Well, you could say liberality, okay? Liberality. What does it mean to be liberal? To be very giving, okay? Willing to give, okay? Willing to depart with things. Okay? We should be willing to depart with our possessions. One of the reasons God tells us in the Bible, with our money that we make, we should tithe. Does anyone know what tithing is? What is tithing?
Giving a tenth.
Giving what?
Giving a tenth.
A tenth back to God. Okay? Give at least 10% of your earnings back to God. Give it to a charity. Give it to someone who needs it. Okay? Yeah. So if we do that, we can practice detachment from material things. Right away, I'm going to give 10% back to God. Give it to the church. Give it to some charity. Okay? You should be giving to church. We make money. Usually the rule is if you're going to tithe 10%, give 5% to the church and 5% to some charity. There are all kinds of charities out there that need money to feed people, to house people. There are charities overseas. It makes us, you're a liberal person. You practice liberality if you're willing to give away what you have. Jesus says in the gospel, you know, the people that were putting in money in the money box of the temple, giving to the church, he was watching all the people come, and then a little old lady comes and she puts in 2 mites, the smallest coins, okay? Less than a penny. She puts that in. And what does Jesus say? Jesus comments on her putting in 2 mites, and he says something. Does anyone know that? What? She gave the most. Why? Because she gave all she had. She gave from her very wants, okay, what she needed. She gave it away, relying on God. God will supply. I'm going to give everything away. That's what the religious do who take a vow of poverty. They give everything away. They own nothing. They rely totally on the goodness of people for their survival. Mother Teresa of Calcutta is nuns, the missionaries of charity. They accept no money. I mean, they give away any money they have to the poor, and they just live on donations. Okay? And what people give them. They don't try to accumulate wealth. So those who are blessed with a lot of wealth, God is going to judge us on how we use it. That's the parable of the talents. Okay? God gives some other parables too. For example, the rich man and Lazarus. The rich man, he walks by the gate every day. There's Lazarus sitting at the gate. Lazarus is filled with sores. He's starving. The rich man wasn't mean to him, didn't kick him, didn't speak badly to him. He simply ignored him. He just ignored him. And Lazarus longed for the crumbs that would fall from the rich man's table, which the rich man's dog ate, but he gave nothing to Lazarus. He's rich, and Lazarus is sitting out his gate, starving. Lazarus dies. Where does Lazarus go? He goes to Abraham's bosom. In other words, to heaven. As soon as the heavens are open, when Jesus dies on the cross, okay, they were waiting for the heavens to be open. Abraham's bosom, the limbo of the just. Okay, that's where he goes. The rich man, he dies. Where does he go? He goes to hell. He says, he pleads, Abraham, just one drop of water. He says, no, you can't do this. Can't do this. You had everything in your life, and you didn't practice any liberality with the people around you who needed it, so that's where you're at. Anyway, covetousness, liberality. Okay? We have to counter greed. Yes, okay? So pride, lust, anger, covetousness, envy. Envy. What does it mean to envy someone? To be envious of someone. What does that mean? What do you think? Jealous and maybe desirous of maybe the gifts and talents that they have. Envy, I call it the stupid sin. The stupid sin. Because we all have gifts and talents, but we can't expect to have all the gifts and talents ourselves. We can't. Other people are going to be more intelligent than us, more better looking than us, better at sports than us. Okay, we're not all equal. Okay? In that sense, we're not created equal in that sense. We're created equal in God's eyes, having dignity, but we're not equal. And the envious person is wanting to take away the good of that other person, wishing may be evil upon them. And it's really rooted in pride. And actually, we tend to envy the people that are closer to us in say, talents. We're envious of them, not someone who's way above us. Okay? I mean, if I'm playing basketball with, from my age, Michael Jordan, okay? I'm not going to be envious of Michael Jordan. I know Michael Jordan's much better than me. If I play basketball with my brother, okay, and he beats me, and there's a little envy there. If I play tennis with him, okay? Someone who's a little better than us, a little better looking, a little more intelligent, we may get envious of him. Okay? Well, to counteract envy, we need brotherly love. Okay, brotherly love. Sisterly love. Okay? So we rejoice in the gifts and talents others have, or the wealth that they have. Okay? We don't get envious or jealous of them. Okay? Jealousy is a related sin. So pride, lust, anger, covetousness, envy, sloth. Okay? Sloth is what? If you're a slothful person, you're what? What, Kara, what does sloth mean? Do you know? You're lazy, okay? Lazy. You're lazy. So how do you counteract laziness? I just don't feel like doing anything today. I'll just, not do my work, my homework, whatever, okay? So what's the virtue that counters that? It's diligence. Okay? Diligence. Okay? You have to be diligent. Or industrious, okay? Industrious. Or industrious. You're going to work. You work with due diligence. Okay? Overcome sloth. You don't want to be slothful. No. Yeah, there are Sunday mornings that I wake up. Guess what? I don't feel like getting up at 6:15 to offer 7 a.m. Mass. I'd rather sleep in. Would that be fair of me? Well, I'm just going to sleep in. Let the people wait down there. I'll have Mass at 7:30 when I get up. Let them wait. No, I wouldn't do that. So, pride, lust, anger, covetousness, envy, sloth. Last one, gluttony. Okay? Gluttony. It's the unreasonable pursuit of pleasure through food, drink. Okay? You should eat the whole box of Oreo cookies. No. It's unreasonable to do that, okay? Yeah. So we'll have a stomachache too. So to counteract gluttony, what do we need? Anyway. What? What?
Self-control.
Self-control, okay? It's temperance, okay? Temperance. The temperate person, okay? Or moderation. Self-control is another, you can say that too. To moderate your desire for something, okay? When you get to be an adult, you can have alcoholic beverages, okay? What your parents give them to you now. Everything's good in moderation. Okay? It's all right to have a drink or two, but to have 10 beers in an hour, well,